tour.
As you pass through here, you're going to notice this big grapevine, and we think it's a grapevine from the mother vine over at the Mission San Gabriel. So if you ever go over to that mission, you'll see, you know, what we think is the mother vine. Here's a very old, it's a very old vine. And it still puts out grapes every year. They don't trim it back. You know, most vines need to be trimmed back, but they don't do it. But every year it gets, I eat one every year. I eat some. Yeah, they're not ripe. They don't get ripe till quite late. Well, September, October. Yeah, here you can see they're a lot bigger. Okay, so we're coming into the back of this house, and you can't tell it from, you know, looking, but it was a 3-room adobe house to begin with. And let me give you a little background on Mr. Workman, because that's who built this house. Mr. Workman was born in England many years ago, in around the 1800s, and he came here. He actually came here in came to the United States as a young man. He followed his brother over, who they'd had his father had died and left him an inheritance. So his father was a glass maker, and so he followed his brother to Missouri, where his brother had a saddle shop, because back then we didn't have cars. It was, you know, a lot of horses.
Yeah.
So he had a saddle shop. So, but you know, Mr. Workman was really drawn to the West, and he eventually, the Wild West called him. So he came out to Taos, New Mexico. He left Missouri. Has anybody been to New Mexico, Taos?
Not Taos, but
It's near Santa
Albuquerque.
Fe, just a little bit above Santa Fe. It's a beautiful little community, and it's one of the oldest communities there. The Native Americans, you know, a lot of, you know, that Native American history around in that area. But the Wild West even called him, he lived there a number of years, and he met his wife, Nicolasa Uriarte. Okay, now that gave him the Mexican connection, which when things were getting a little political, and you remember the last of the Alamo kind of thing, that fight that, you know, Mexico had with the United States down in Mexico, or in Texas rather. Watch your step as you go up, and you have a handrail. It's hot though. Very hot. So it's cooler up here in the shade, but when I first saw this house, I always thought it was very unusual. If you've been in any adobe houses, they're always on the ground floor. You don't have a raised floor like this. On special tours, today's just a regular tour, but we have special tours. If you check the website, that trap door goes up, and there's stairs that go down, and there's a basement under. It doesn't completely cover the whole house, but it's a pretty good size. And there's, you know, they used it for various things. There's actually down there, there's a vault down there that they used, and there's a kitchen of sorts.
Really?
Down there, yeah. Well, that's something they used as a kitchen. This eventually became the kitchen, but let's just talk about the 3 rooms. It was a capital I. Capital I. These wings were not there to begin with.
Oh.
And if you look, you can see the adobe.
Oh, wow.
See the adobe? They just covered it over when they redid the house in 1868. But in 1841, when they first started building, it was adobe. So I'll tell you all about it inside. Let's go.
Let's go, gang.
Yes, that's a beam going across the threshold, or yeah. So let's go inside. And as you go inside, notice how cool it is. Adobe is wonderful. And look how thick the walls are.
Wow.
That's what makes it so cool, because the walls are so thick. And look at the windows, how they're kind of swayed. That lets more light in. I always wonder if they had glass when he first, because glass has been around forever, but yet I don't know if not all houses would have glass. but I don't know if they did.
History of glass when it started and
Yeah.
it was built.
Well, if you go to the Getty, I'll never forget, it was like, I think it was the exhibit showed 2,000 years ago. They had gorgeous little vases and stuff, and I went, oh, they've been doing glass forever. Before Christ, you know. Okay, so Mr. Workman came here, and what did he do? Well, he had cattle. And he was a cattle, this was money back in the day. This was worth about $4. He could trade for things. Now, one of the things he could trade for was something like this. Okay, do you know what this is?
Mold.
It's a what?
Mold.
A mold for candles, yes. There's a hole in each one of these areas, and they would put a wick material down there, pour the fat from the animal, the tallow. They called this the tallow and hide business. And so a cow was worth about $4 because of the, you know, the hide and the tallow. They didn't have lights back then, it was all candles. And this would cost about $4. So they would trade, the ships would come in from around the Horn back then, you know, down in South America, way down. That's how the ships could come from the East Coast. They'd come around down by South America, come up here, and then Mr. Workman would send his cowboys, his vaqueros, down to the beach area, and like San Clemente had a little cliff, the ships could come in and they could barter down in that area. Yeah, so stuff we would make with the tallow. Of course, here's a candle that's broken, and this isn't a taper, that one was a tapered. But they used candles, and they made them. This is something else they used for. Soap. Smell it, you want to smell it. It's not like Dove or what are the good ones now? Now we use liquid sand, soap and stuff. Yeah, anybody want to? It's just they put something with it, with the fat. It had fat and I think they used lye and ashes. Ashes. I don't know. You know. I'm not making soap, but you know, everybody's making soap these days. Anyway, so we have him making his money as a rancher here with his cattle. But he decided also to plant, you know, some orchards and things and vineyards. So he was, you know, not just a rancher to begin with. This is the sample. Oh, something happened to our brick. Uh-oh. It wasn't broken the last tour I gave. Yeah.
Somebody broke the brick.
Because you can see what's inside the brick. This is the adobe. The straw and little pebbles and things. Yeah, when I first started here 25 years ago, this wall was exposed and you could see all the adobe brick in here. They've since fixed it up. And, yeah. But if you lift one up, go ahead and lift it, because it doesn't look like it's heavy, but it's very heavy for, to me, for a little piece of, you know, it's a substantial, you know, a hunk of dirt. Yeah. So the way you want to pick one up, the way they would make the bricks, he makes it look so easy. But they had a form like this, but and here in this picture shows the brick making at the other house that we're going to go to next. How many will go on the second tour? Do you have time to go to the 2 o'clock tour? You'll see, you won't see this, but they had big ovens to dry those bricks. But when they built this house, they just air dried them. Like on a day like today, they probably really dry pretty good. But sometimes it took up to like 6 weeks for, you know, it depended on the weather.
Right.
You know, but they would just lay the brick down, I mean the form, and they'd have a big, like a hole or mud, you know, and they just kind of add water and, you know, plow it up. And then, you know, did anybody play mud pies on the little mud? And make a little mud pie, so they put the mud in there and pat it and then lift it up, and there it would dry out in the sun. So that's how they made it. But of course, the next house, they brought Mexico, workers from Mexico, and they were very proficient at making bricks, and they put them in big ovens. Yeah. Now this is a picture of his daughter. I haven't talked about her. She had, Nicolasa and William Workman had 2 kids. One was a boy and a girl. And the girl is right here. And this is Antonia Margarita, okay? Now she's all grown up. But what happened in the 1840s? Fast forward a little bit. Do you remember?
Civil War.
What's that?
Civil War.
No, the Civil War would have been way back. This one, well, no, the Civil War hadn't started yet. You're close. You're close. We're getting there. No, the Civil War, but no, the 1840s, we discovered gold here
Okay.
in California. So in 1849, they called them the 49ers, remember? So
Okay.
they were out here. He now sends his cattle up to the hungry miners up in Northern California. His brother, the one that had the saddle shop, he comes out here to help his brother, Thomas, or Mr. Workman. And he then, his brother dies in a cattle drive up north. He went off a cliff on his horse and died. And that was sad. But why he was out here was to help him with these cattle drives. Because instead of getting $4, the price of, those hungry miners would pay a lot for, a steak. It was lousy, by the way, until the Texas Longhorns really were the better cow for eating. But this one, they needed it for food. So anyway, it was worth more like $25 or $30. So he was getting it wealthier.
Right.
So we have that. Oh, and then one other big thing in the 1840s was the Mexican-American War between 46 and 48. And then the Treaty of Guadalupe was signed, which gave us the division between Mexico and the United States that we have today. So that was a big time. Between 1846 and 1848, that war was fought. So, and then gold was discovered. So a lot of stuff was happening. So let's go into the next one. Well, this is the one I want to show you. Because this one shows the stream that I'm going to point out that's just right on the other side of the road you came in on, Don Julian. By the way, Don Julian, William Workman's name was William Workman, but when he married Nicolasa Uriarte, he became Don Julian. He took a Mexican name. And so that's how this street name is Don Julian. Or not, it's Don Julian, we call it, but it's named after William Workman. So this little stream right here is the San Jose Creek, and it comes off of the Santa Fe, the Rio Hondo and the San Gabriel River that comes down from the mountains. But when they split, I don't think I told you that William Workman came out here with John Rowland Heights. Mm-hmm. So that's the connection between the two. John Rowland's house is just a mile down this road. You know where the Hacienda La Puente School District office is? On Gale?
Oh yeah, right behind it.
That 2-story house. And it was the first brick house in the area for you. You'll see we have brick additions in here, but it was not out yet, out here. So anyway, it comes like this, and here's the chapel. The cemetery is noted on here, and John Rowland's house. But when they divided the property, see what they did? They gave this to Workman, this to Rowland. They had little segments. So they didn't just say, hey, you get this and you get that. They did it in workable plots of land. Yeah. But here it shows you it took them until 1868 to get clear title because the United States didn't want to give them title. But they had to go up and keep fighting and say, no, it's a land grant, it's a land grant. So it took them from 1841 to 1868 to get clear title. Okay,
7 years.
Here. Well, that's just kind of a depiction of the Wild West. And over here you'll see a gun because, it was the Wild West.
Gotta keep that burning. You gotta keep it on you.
In the courts, they kind of a gun.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So especially over
Last
here.
man.
The change, we're transitioning from the 1840s and then the 1850s. When he then planted more groves and wheat fields and stuff. And in fact, people that knew the area back then said wheat fields, if you've gone down Hacienda Boulevard towards the north, it was just wheat fields forever, up and down. And in fact, you've heard of Workman Mill Road?
Mhm.
No? He hasn't. Are you from the area?
Well, he doesn't know my road, he knows my.
How old are you? Yeah, so when you start driving.
Yeah, he just learned.
Oh, yeah. I have a 21-year-old that still doesn't drive. He doesn't want to. I don't understand. Why? But anyway, so Workman Mill Road. Now, do you live locally now?
I travel for work, and I like learning, so I wanted to learn more about.
Yeah, but I mean, do you know, are you in the area?
Nah, I just got here like yesterday.
Oh, so you're just like on vacation or something, or?
I work tonight type deal.
Oh, so you are.
I'm gonna be here for like 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then, you know, I was gonna say, you know, keep an eye out for Workman Mill Road. But anyway, Workman Mill Road
Yeah.
was the road that would take it to the mill. So that's why they call it Workman Mill Road. And we have a millstone out in the back of the next house that they converted into a real nice fountain. But it's really kind of cool when you realize that all the street names are, you know, are here. So, okay, so the house started out, boom, as a 3-room adobe. Okay? Then, when he started expanding and he needed more workers to plant the vineyards and the wheat fields and everything, he hired all the Native Americans and whoever lived around here, the Californios. If you were native born Mexican, you were called a Californio, and that's what lived here. So he provided school and, you know, accommodations for them. You can tell it was part of the adobe because there's a cutaway there. Because that used to be a window, and then when they added these wings, they had to close that window off. So we left that so you could see how it looks adobe, you know. All right, so it's been a very good, you know, Mr. Workman is very, you know, the stars are aligned for him. Well, he goes into business with his son-in-law, FTF Temple, and they open a bank. And because that's the thing you do when you have lots of money and, you know, you're rolling and go and, you know, things are going your way. But he was the old-fashioned kind of guy that if he loaned money, he just, you know, shook your hand and said, pay me back when you can. He didn't take collateral. So when things got rough and there was a run on money, kind of like, you know, that thing we just went through, the 2008 when we, prices of all the houses, everything kind of, the bottom fell out, let's say, of everything. Well, these people that owed him money, he'd loaned, they weren't paying him back. And then the other people that had savings, they were like, oh, get my money out, I don't trust the banks anymore. Okay, now we have the United States government backs our savings for $250,000 each account. But they didn't do that back then. So your money, you know, they were afraid. So people there was a run on banks. So a guy named Lucky Baldwin, and you don't know Baldwin Park, but it's a town north of here. And Lucky Baldwin was the guy's name. So Lucky Baldwin loaned him in 2 different loans, a total of $325,000. And you can see that the bank looks pretty fancy, doesn't it? This picture you can tell. So when he loaned the money, they actually closed the doors from they closed the doors on the bank, and it was closed for a few weeks. And he got the money and he piled it high on his, you know, counter there and said, oh, come on. And they had a big grand reopening. Come on, folks, our bank's doing fine. But it wasn't. People still didn't trust him. And actually up in Northern California, there was a lot of speculation in copper. That was one of the things that, you know, was driving this kind of economy that wasn't real, you know, going real good. Anyway, he couldn't pay it, and Lucky Baldwin came walking up to the house to collect his money. And it was just too much for Mr. Workman. He went in that bedroom and killed himself. So this letter is written May the 17th, 1876. And this is, his grandson was living with him, Francisco. Dear mother, grandfather has shot himself this afternoon. Come at once. So that was a sad thing to have happen to a man who had such integrity. It literally killed him to not be able to, do this.
What about your river? An unparalleled array of deadbeats.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's so sad. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, this is a sample of the things that, kids, now we have TV and all kinds of stuff, but back in the day, these are called stereoscopes, and you put this little card in and you went like this and focused and you look at the picture and it was, that was what we did in the day.
Viewmaster.
VRs. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so, we'll go in that room in our,
She take me. Let me show y'all something. Though. It's the trunk caller.
one of our, he's a great grandson of the lady there, so he goes, I used to jump on that bed. Anyway, so then notice the beautiful painted sconce up above the light. And the story behind this room is this was uncovered when the wallpaper was removed for them to redo this room. It had wallpaper, but when they discovered this beneath it, they decided to then replicate it throughout the walls because this was one of the originals. This was broken, but they replicated that from using the mold from the other, in the next room we see. But yeah, they had no bathroom back then, so this was kind of like a little, and then
That's
the
the
wash
bad
water
thing.
was over there in the stand. So anyway, it's kind of an interesting room. So I'll lead you out. We'll go, so with the last person, shut the door, please. And then we'll go across the hall. And here's another room to watch your step. As you go down by, you can look at pictures from the Los Angeles area back at, some of them are 1927. It shows you the various buildings that we had. All right, so watch your step as you go down here. Yes, but repainted,
okay.
yeah. Okay, well, actually, this was more, when they put on, because this was done in 1868, this floor, so they have different floors and different heights and everything. But this shows you how that room across the hall was before, look at, and then over here, I noticed you went over there, because that's a very interesting wall. The brick came in 1868 when they redid this house, so they filled that window in with brick, but you see where the adobe was around the window. But we left that so you could see the building. And this is the sconce that they copied to make the other one. So since you're going on the tour, I'll skip this case, but come and look at this one. These were this shoe, and when you go on a special tour, you'll see it upstairs. Yeah, that was the glass. They found all this stuff around
I
here.
thought that was that liquid.
The flooring and the wallpaper. Oh, yeah. But the shoe, it was considered lucky to bury a shoe when you redid your house. So they found several shoes up between the walls or the floors, and that's one of them. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the customs they did back in the day. So we'll go outside now.
This looks like it's hand painted.
Huh?
It looks like it's hand painted.
I wonder if it is.
It does.
Oh, you know, I wonder. That's a good question for me to ask. Okay, if you could close the door when you get through.
So this the front of the house?
What's that?
This the front?
Yes, this is the front. Yeah, and if you know the area, that was not here. That plays into our story, but I will skip it for a little while. But that's El Encanto, and it's a nursing home or a convalescent home. But straight down the road, if you look carefully, well, it hasn't, I just saw a car pass. There goes a car. That's Valley Boulevard, and Valley Boulevard is a main street. And the entrance to this house was off of Valley, and it would come up a long driveway that we'll see in a minute. Okay, and the City of Industry got this property back. Yeah, the door, and that's something real wide. I know, it's ADA, you know, you gotta, and now it's Americans with Disability Act passed in 1989. It could comply.
Yeah, they built some big old townhouses by where we live. And I'm not kidding you, the front doors are only about this big.
I know, I guess, I don't know what they're trying to
How
do.
can you even move your furniture in?
I know.
Right.
So, this was the original, except without all those hash marks. See, I think what they did was, decide to, like, they wanted to put the new finish, but then they went, oh, let's wait and show some of the old finish. But they had done this probably all over the whole thing. Okay, you can see over here another cutaway of the adobe underneath, and there's the
More adobe.
sauce for the.
I always thought Adobe was like reddish, like, you know. Orange.
Well, it
the
depends
mud.
on the clay
Yeah.
soil. Yeah.
Yeah, depends on what they got
You
going.
can see it's held up very well. My cousin lives in Tucson, Arizona, and he has an old adobe house. He lives in town. And it's too expensive to even add on. He added on and he couldn't even.
Oh, this house is retrofitted already.
It's what?
Retrofitted. Retrofit for earthquake.
Oh, yes. That other wall where that triptych window, I don't know if you noticed behind the couch, that was all brick. That building, and they have pipes or like retrofitted rods coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, now the Rowland house, the one that John Rowland, they can't go, well, it needs to be, but see, City of Industry doesn't own that. I mean, pardon me, this is, it's owned by La Puente, this is owned by City of Industry.
Okay.
And La Puente doesn't have the same money that City of Industry has, yeah. All right, so let's walk down here. Here you can see the Lady Banks Road. And watch your step as you go down.
Hello?
We're gonna have a good crop. These are pomegranate trees.
Ooh.
And the rain, we had so much rain this year, they really look
Yeah, like
beautiful. They're gonna have a
pomegranates.
good crop, I think.
But you gotta boost them up.
Let's go. Hurry along. Hurry along, we have to have a break between the next tour, or I'll never make it. All right, so the pomegranate trees are very old as well. Wow. Oh, yeah. So this was the main entrance to the house this way, coming up from Valley Boulevard.
Okay.
And so,
On
Yeah.
I looked on your website,
uh-huh.
and it shows a picture of all this like way back in the day, and I was like, Don Julian isn't even there. You
I
you
know,
just see
I know.
all that-
Yeah,
I
it was
like
just a
that.
little road, yeah.
You can see the house,
We
you can
just-
see the cemetery down
Uh-huh,
there.
yeah, it's cool. We just put this in, it was just gravel. All right, so we'll go out, go take a little rest, get into the water, and then we'll tour the next house.
Give me something to eat. Stomach growling. I don't know what I'm finna eat, but I'm finna eat something. Finna eat something. Oh, almost hit some branches, gang. I'm the tallest one here. I feel tall. Thank you.
You're welcome. So get a drink of water and
I'm finna give me something to eat. I'm gonna fly back to this bit. So y'all can see my view and shit, man. This shit dope. Smoke a lot of dope. Drink a lot of dope. Yeah, I'm the GOAT. You say, "Clock you lick, dub, bitch." I know, totem sticks with the. Alright, I think I'm finna go to another museum. This one lame.
I don't give a fuck about no bitch that want my cheese.